BMAdawg here, and welcome to the 10th episode of the Beantown Sports Pound on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Your reigning, defending Boston Celtic 18-time champions are advancing to the Eastern Conference semifinals after they defeated the Orlando Magic in 5 games. Where do they go from here? Who's a better fit? Pistons are next. You got the college check in the baseball Beantown for our CONMEV teams, and one of our CONMEV lacrosse teams have already had their conference tournament in play. You got your Boston Red Sox as the batters are finally on the road, putting on the Wally helmet, and you got the Patriots had a huge draft. They had a great draft. Who do we get? Did we get the player I wanted? Find out in a few minutes on the Beantown Sports Pound. Turn up the sound. It's time for the Beantown Sports Pound. Woo! All right. Welcome, everybody. I am your host, BMAdawg. We got a big episode tonight. Here is the match card order. For our opener, we're going to start off with your Boston Red Sox, who won 3 of the last 4, and the batters are finally getting their groove together again after a series against the Cleveland Guardians, who was top in the AL Central. Then we're going to stick to baseball in the Green Monster as our CONMEV colleges faced each other in the Beanpot, just like hockey. They had it for baseball this year. Who came out and why? Then you got your college lax check-in before our first break, and you're going to want to stick through the colleges because we got a big Patriots draft recap. Welcome to Boston, Will Campbell from LSU, and they got some really good picks. We're going to go over how I think they did, how the experts think they did, and the other neighbors from one Patriot place, the New England Revolution, have been red hot after starting off really slow. And then we got a big announcement coming right after that, right before our end of our show. And we're debuting our PWHL ladies, the Boston Fleet, as there is playoff hockey coming to Boston, but in a different gender. How are the Fleet doing, and how is women's hockey doing in the Commonwealth? And then for your main event of the evening, you got your reigning, defending, 18-time champion Boston Celtics, as Tatum and Brown in the game took care of some magic tricks as they were immune to it all, as they advanced to the Eastern Conference semifinals as your main event of the evening. And we'll get into a big, huge show, including a big, huge announcement that's going to set the course of IE Sports Radio and how we do our Player of the Week. Tune in after this from a word from our amazing sponsors. Woo!
IE Sports Radio fans, this show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, Single A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
rise and shine. It's 4 a.m. The stars are still out. The sun is beneath the horizon, but it's time to punch in and go to work. The comfort of your warm-ups turns into the grinding out of your reps as the clinking and the clinking of the plates create a symphony of euphoria. There's no other feeling like it. Earn it, burn it, and take what's yours. IE Sports Radio has proudly partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use our code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to support mental health. Go hard, take part in your iron therapy, and be strong. Because when your mental health is as strong as you are, there's no telling how far you'll go.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the IE Sports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
All right, folks, thank you very much. As you know, my name is BMAdawg, and you can follow me at my X accounts on my professional account, which you're going to really want to follow after this episode, at Beantown_IESR, and also at all capitals B, capital M, capital A, D, dog, BMAdawg, or BMAdawg, whatever the hell you want to call it. And before we start our show tonight and our opener, I'd like to thank all of our amazing sponsors. Thank you, Planet Jerky, Premium Biscuit Beef Jerky on Another Planet, Vital Apparel, where some of our proceeds go to mental health research, which is a very important cause, Seal the Deal Wax Seal, which is good for any wedding or any bridal shower and all that stuff. And you got, most importantly, our platform, IE Sports Radio. You can follow us on Instagram, X, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube, which we're live on three of those platforms, and Twitch. And you can follow our webpage on iSports Radio /Beantowns, the Beantown Sports Pound, for any updates. We also got a lot of stuff to cover tonight. I'm excited. Let's get started for our opener of the evening. The opener is scheduled for one fall, and it is our baseball, our Boston Red Sox, as they had one of their games that get rained out on Friday. They took a little time, as some of our batters have been very inconsistent so far this year, including Rafael Devers, who started historically slow with 0 for 18, and some of them have had a tough time getting runners in scoring position, has been a theme for all year. But we've been picking things up, and our big challenge of the year, besides our opening day series against the Texas Rangers, who won the World Series a few years back against the Diamondbacks, you got the Cleveland Guardians, who are currently leading the AL Central with Steve Kwan, who's one of the leading AL in batting average, and you got the historic slugger of Jose Ramirez. It's a team you cannot take lightly. No, folks, as we got a big games to recap, as the rain was pretty bad here in Boston on Friday, but it was really bad in Cleveland. Oh boy, did they have a historic sports weekend, as we're going to get into that later, as they're home to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And you also got a big series with the Cleveland Guardians, a good test for this young Red Sox team for a lot of new faces. And John Henry finally opened up his big fat wallet, folks. Absolutely. They had a weekend series with the leading Cleveland Guardians, as boy, did that city have a memorable weekend. The Sox took 2 out of 3 from Cleveland, including splitting up the day-night doubleheader, one going right back. Sometimes they do the doubleheaders as early as 12:30, 1 o'clock, and as late as 7 p.m., especially. I don't think this game was on Fox this past weekend, as I watched it on Nesson. In the first game of the doubleheader, the Red Sox fell short against the Guardians. The man who loves the daytime, the man who had multi-home runs in opening day, Wilyer Abreu, had a 3-run home run. This team loves hitting 3-run home runs, as they have at least 13 of them of the year. To give the Sox a 3-0 lead, Tanner Hoke should be able to bounce back, right? He can't play the Chicago White Sox, the bottom of the AL Central, every damn week. No, he can't. As they ended up giving up 4 back in the bottom of the first after, boy, you might have been celebrating if you put a lot of money on the over for 8.5 runs, I believe this game was. But it didn't matter, as the bats were pretty quiet after that first inning, as Jose Ramirez delivered a pivotal RBI, propelling Cleveland to a commanding lead to 5-3, despite a late rally by Boston, with Rafael Devers snapping his cold streak in this game. The Sox end up losing, and Tanner Hoke got the loss 5-4. So how do they return back in the nighttime doubleheader? The Red Sox bounced back in the second game, securing a 7-3 win over the Guardian. The offense was led by the cleanup guy, who's becoming one of the best fielders in the American League his second year, seeding Rafaela, who drove in a bunch of runs. And you got Rob Ricefielder, the guy who either takes the place of Jaron Duran or Wilyer Abreu when they need to switch off the lineup. He's been doing really well, as he got a home run in this game. And Jaron Duran had a bunch of hits. And Brian Bello came back, folks. He came back last week, but it is so good to have him in the rotation. They're keeping him as like a 5th, 6th, or 4th starter, I believe, as Sean Newcomb is pitching tonight against the Toronto Blue Jays, as he really needs to bounce back. He kind of did last game, getting 5 strikeouts, but he really needs to bounce back, or we could use him in the relieving spot, as Brian Bello did earn the win, allowing 3 runs over 6 innings, as the Sox won 7-3. And now there's a rubber match on Sunday between the Guardians and the Red Sox, as both these teams want to prove themselves this early in the season. I know it is very early, but the Red Sox did go 13-3 in this game. They won 13-3. Holy cow, did they put the smokes on these guys. As Jarren Duran not only had 4 hits, but unfortunately, there was a real jerk, a real ass in the stands as a fan. As we all know, Jarren Duran, we had the hit Netflix documentary that's being released about this current team as well as the 2004 Cowboy Up World Series. What a memorable time that was. As mental health is very important. As someone said to Jarren Duran that he should have done what he was thought of doing. I don't want to say this on the air, and the fan had to restrain him, and that wasn't very right to do, as I wouldn't expect that from the Yankees. No matter how much you love or hate a team or a player in professional sports, anyone, figures included, whether they're celebrities or not, like, people have way too much time on their hands, and they're showing on social media. It's so easy to be negative, and when they think no one's going to see you in the fan, and boy, hopefully that guy gets punished, as I do feel bad for the fans of Cleveland. They suffered long enough with their Cleveland Browns being the Cleveland Browns, as they've been suffering for years, and it doesn't help. And one idiot person doesn't make a difference for any of these fan bases, Cleveland included, as you would never think that from Cleveland would affect a situation like this. No, you would not. As in this game, Durant did hit 4 hits and an RBI. He's finally getting hot. And Rafael Devers considered his hot streak, going 2 for 6 in this game with an RBI. Bregman also had a hit, as he's starting to become one of the league leaders in batting average. And you got a story to tell with Trevor striking out twice, but he did get a run. Rice Fielder has been a great fielder, and his bat's starting to heat up. So he went 1 for 4 in this game. And you got Romy Gonzalez, who took the place of Tristan Cassis in this game, getting 2 runs and a walk. And you got Christian Campbell, who you got 3 of the top 15 in the American League in 900 OPS sluggage have been Gonzalez. No, I mean Christian Campbell. Get that soup ready. You got Wilyer Abreu, and you got Alex Bregman. Who would have thought Devers wouldn't be on this list? You got these guys, as Campbell's been having a huge hit streak, as it was right to bring him up to the main roster. As you got guys like Marcelo Mayo killing it in Worcester, and Roman Anthony, who supposedly can't be an infielder, has been slugging it in Worcester. As if any of these guys get injured, I'm not going to stress, because you got a great farm system down in Worcester and up north in Portland, Maine with the Sea Dogs. As well, you got Carlos Nevarez, who's been getting a place of Connor Juan, who's been out with an injury, who's been doing really great as catcher. As who else but Jason Varitek being able to mentor this team, including the catching, as it's been a very hard position to play in the major leagues. And you got Seanid Rafael having 5 RBIs in this game, as everyone thought he couldn't hit. He's doing very well, especially for the cleanup spot and batter number 9. I am very impressed with how this team has been playing. But you got a big series this weekend at home to try to get the homestand, as you get the Minnesota Twins, who may have won the AL Central a few years back, but you got Buxton being their only good hitter on that team, center fielder, as the Twins have been struggling this year, but it's not something to take lightly. They have a 3-game series after they're live right now against the Toronto Blue Jays. Let's take a live look for a sec at how our Red Sox are doing. You had Crochet pitching last night, striking out 6, and you got guys hitting 5 home runs last night, including 3 in a row. Let's take a live look in on this team, shall we? Oh my God, they're up north in Toronto. It's so fun to see a Boston team beat Toronto in the month of April, as their NHL team is going to start to panic again after they were up 3-0 as the Senators beat the Maple Leafs last night. And the Red Sox ain't helping them, as they gone up 2-1, 2-0 so far, as they got 2 runs in the inning, and you got Devers getting a run, and you got Bregman getting a hit. Those guys are finally coming to life. You had a Bregman get a solo home run. This is why we signed him and paid all that money, folks. As you got a very tough American League East right now. Crochet is currently pitching. You got an extremely tough and competitive American League East where you got Aaron Judge leading the New York Yankees and Paul Goldschmidt and Anthony Volpe as the Yankees are up in the AL East with an 18-12 record. As the Sox are only a game and a half with 17-14. You got Tampa Bay Rays average up in the middle, Brandon Lowe in the game, 14-15. You got Toronto being 13-16 with George Springer and Vladimir Guerrero. It's kind of surprising to see the Baltimore Orioles be 11-18, especially with all those hitters they got, as this team is going to catch up too, as the Yankees and Orioles will be playing each other this upcoming, I believe. So it is a good opportunity for them to get the hits and get those guys to beat up on each other. So maybe the Red Sox can get an AL lead starting in the month of May. That would be amazing, folks. As we got another big series right before we go on air in a special time next week. The Red Sox are taking on an opening day rematch. You got Eovaldi facing Garrett Crochet, former Red Sox, as you got the Texas Rangers right after the Minnesota Twins. And this is going to be a matchup for the ages. We're lucky we're going to get to see this matchup 2 times in a calendar year and right within a month. As don't forget, Adolis Garcia destroyed the Red Sox in 2 out of 3 of the opening matchups, as this was a big difference maker for this team, as they did struggle opening day series after their opening day win against the Texas Rangers, who's leading the ALS with the Houston Astros in that division. And surprisingly, the Athletics are going up in the standings, which is shocking to a lot of people. You got the Angels being the Angels, and this is a very competitive ALS, possibly a battle for first place when we go back to cover the Red Sox next week. This is going to be a big test for them. Hopefully we can get 2 out of 3 against the Twins, and definitely want 2 out of 3 against the Texas Rangers, as the Red Sox can possibly overtake the Yankees this time next week. That is a long shot, folks. But we are going to move on to our next section. We are still sticking with baseball, but it's time to talk about our Com Ave College. They had a bean pot at Fenway Park. You also had a big game with the BC Eagles, as they have the ALS Pete Freights game against the Miami Hurricanes this past weekend. It is time. They had not only had 1, but 2 games this week in the Green Monster, as they took on the Miami Hurricanes in the annual Pete Freights ALS game, which, if you remember, folks, as social media was really starting to get popular 10 years ago, or a decade ago, they had a rival. He's a survivor of ALS. Pete Freights, a former BC athlete. He had an ice bucket challenge where you had athletes, celebrities, your friends and family taking part, where you dump a big, huge box of ice. Imagine doing that in the winter. That wouldn't be good for the batters. As you had they took on Miami, which Colin Larson drove in a home run in the 5th inning to get the Eagles up 2-0. But an 8th inning after the stretch made the game go backwards, as starter Brady Miller was phenomenal for 7 innings pitched, but got switched after a few walks, and BC gave up a 3-run home run to give the Hurricanes a 3-2 win. But BC did have a chance to redeem themselves, as they're 22-23 for the year, 9-5 in the ACC. As they take on UMass Amherst all the way left of the state in the Beantown Constellation at Fenway, which Eagles grabbed the 3-run lead in the 4th and 1 in the 5th to give them a 4-0. They were down 6-4 until Josiah Ragsdale grabbed a grand slam in top of the 8th to give the Eagles a 9-6 lead and a 12-6 win in the Constellation at Fenway Park. Their upcoming games in a weekend series against the Stanford Cardinals in the ACC conference, as they look to improve their wins and losses, especially in the division, so they can improve their seeding when they start in a few weeks. ACC conference tournament to try to get an automatic bid in the College World Series tournament. Speaking of hot, we're going to cover two of our ComAv colleges as the Harvard Crimson, who's 11-23, 8-9 in the Ivy League, take on the red-hot Northeastern Huskies, who is 16-2 in the Coastal Athletic Association division and 34-9 in the league. But boy, is this team hot. Not only, before I recap the Beantown game, their pitching was some of the best in the nation, with top in the whip and shutout, third in the shutouts in the country, giving up the third least amount of ERA, which includes Will Jones, who was 12th in ERA and 6th in the wins nationally. Avon Cabral, who's ranked 41st in the ERA and 19th in wins nationally. And Jordan Gottsman, who was 47th in ERA nationally, out of all these starting pitchers. But Cam Modando broke the all-time Husky leader in stolen bases this past weekend with 82, surpassing the record of 80, as the Huskies and Harvard Crimson played each other for the first Beanpot since 2019. Harvard went up 1-0 with a spectacular solo home run in the monster, but a spectacular fifth inning for the Huskies batters was a difference maker this game, with Alex Lane starting to trend with his second double in a row for this game, which gave the Huskies to start to get the 5-1 lead. But Harvard nearly came back in the top of the ninth, with Taylor Schulman getting the 2-run RBI double. But the Huskies win their 8th baseball Beanpot, which puts them in a great position for a top spot in their conference, as they have a weekend series versus Delaware this coming weekend. And Harvard has their last regular season series before there's Ivy League tournament play, as they take on Columbia, which includes their senior day, as they hope to get some big conference wins to try to qualify for the Ivy League tournament to get that automatic bid into the College World Series tournament. And before we move on, we got our softball check-in, which I didn't really get a chance to look into this week. You have BC ladies going 22-26. They won 10-5 earlier today. They have a 5-16 ACC record. But our other ladies teams, the Harvard Crimson is 23-11, 12-6 in the Ivy League. And you got BU 31-17, 11-4 in the Patriot League. As I look forward for next week, I look forward to cover more in depth with the softball, especially where we are going to switch gears, folks. Yes, we are. We are going to talk about we're still going to stick to college, but we're going to talk about our ComAv lacrosse teams, men and women, as it is time to switch gears, because due to a big Patriots and Celtics recaps tonight, I try to separate the college baseball and lacrosse teams, but I found it easier to separate the Patriots and Celtics instead of doing co-headliner and headliner with those two teams. That's why I'm cramming all the colleges now to get the spotlight they do for the college lack check-in. It is time to talk about how great our men's and women's teams are. The men's and women's, the Harvard and BU teams, are 14th and 15th ranked nationally in lacrosse. We're going to talk about Harvard first, as they are 10-3 of the year, 4-2 in the Ivy League, as they took on the Brown Bears this weekend, winning that game 11-10 on their field, as they pulled off an impressive comeback after being down 4-0 in the first period. A huge part of their comeback is attributed to Logan LP with 5 goals on the outing, after Jack Spinell grabbed some Brown turnovers to convert 2 goals, including his 11th and the game winner. It is noted that Jackson Heenan converted 13 out of the 19 shots to win the face-off, which made a huge difference in this game. Picked up a career-best 9 ground balls of the year, as the Crimson will look to take on Princeton next week in the Ivy League tourney, as they are 10th ranked in the country. And you got BU who's right behind them. They are 10-4 and 6-2 in Patriot League play. BU has clinched a spot in the Patriot League semifinals with a 14-12 win on senior day against Colgate, as senior Jimmy O'Connell clinched a career-high 8 points on 5 assists like the Crimson. The Terriers trailed in this game 8-5 at the end of the first half, with the third quarter, after Colgate scored the open half the opening goal of the third quarter and second half, the Terriers came back with 5 unanswered goals. A large part was the amazing defense as junior defenseman Connor Team causing 3 Colgate turnovers and 5 ground ball. As BU takes on Army in the Patriot League semifinals, this will be interesting to watch to see if they get by Army, to see if the Crimson take on Princeton for the Ivy League tourney. Because don't forget, this year, both men's and women's semifinals and finals are in one Patriot Place in Gillette Stadium this year. And now we're going to switch gears to the ladies, as the BU ladies lacrosse team is 7-7 for the year, but 2-5 in the Patriot League. The BU women had their senior night as they lost a tough battle against Holy Cross 18-12, as they gave up 10 goals in the second quarter, but it didn't end up that badly for assist leader Leah Hodgins, as she got not only a hat trick, but the first 3 Lady Terriers goals of the night. Senior Isabella Amante got her hat trick for her 37th goal in their first season of play, as the Terriers had a rough second period to get the difference of this game, with the Crusaders leading them in shots on goal of the night, as the Terriers most likely end the season as a .500 percentage record. As they look for an improving squad next season, we're going to switch to the Harvard Lady Crimson, who's 9-6 of the year. The Lady Crimson left their mark on a historic landslide as they destroyed Columbia 18-4. They outshot Columbia 38-18 for the night, and the ladies made history as senior Caroline Mullally grabbed their 150th career assist in what was her final regular season game, as she is the 150th player in NCAA history to grab that milestone. The Lady Crimson went down 1-0, then they scored 8 unanswered goals to put them in the command and league, as the ladies look to get selected in the NCAA tourney. And now we're going to switch gears to a team that already started their conference play in the ACC, the Boston College Lady Eagles, who's your defending women's lacrosse D1 champions. They are 17-2 of the year, 8-1 in ACC play. This team is absolutely incredible, to say the least. They started and finished the ACC tournament this week. Their first opponent was the Virginia Cavaliers, who they defeated at Alumni Stadium on Senior Day, which the Eagles jumped to the 8-0 run in the second quarter. Senior sensation Rachel Clark had 6 goals on this game, as Emma Lapontos had a hat trick and 3 assists. Maya Mesconi had 3 goals and 1 assist, as well as Shea Dulce had 14 saves with a .67 save percentage. They advanced to take on Stanford in the ACC semifinals, where they ended up defeating Stanford 16-9 to advance to their 4th consecutive ACC final, as they tied the end of first at 3 apiece, with the quarterfinal prior had a dominant second with them, outscoring 6-1. They dominated the ground ball category with a 14-7 advance, which is a key stat to this game, as Emma Laponto continued to be amazing, as she had 6 goals, 2 hat tricks, 1 for each half. Rachel Clark had 4 goals, and McKenna Davis had 4 points. Davis became one of 4 players in BC school history to reach the 300-point milestone. And that's not all, as Rachel Clark is now 4th all-time in single season with 89 goals and counting, while her 109 points of the year is 7th in a single season. Laponto is 3 points away from 100 points for the season, as the Eagles have a rematch of the century with the number 1 ranked North Carolina Tar Heels, as BC started off in the ACC finals with an evenly matched 5 apiece in the first quarter, then tied at 7 at the end of the first half. But they took the 9-8 lead at the end of the third quarter, but got outplayed in the last quarter, being outscored 5 of the last 6 goals in this game, as they will await Selection Sunday to find out not only who they play in the NCAA tourney, they still get a number 1 overall seed in one of their brackets, as Dulce, Shea Baker, and Rachel Clark represented BC on the ACC All-Tournament team. Dulce made an ACC tournament record 38 saves and finished with over a .500 save percentage. Folks, we are going to take a commercial break as we have the moment you've all been waiting for. We go to One Patriot Place in the second part of the show, and we cover not only the Red Hot Revolution, but my Patriots draft recap, as they have the number 4 overall pick. Enjoy these commercial breaks as we switch gears after promoting our following shows. Stay tuned.
What's up, New York? This is Ricky K coming at you at the NY State of Sports, a new show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Listen to me every Thursday afternoon as we bring you the latest takes on the Yankees, Mets, Jets, Giants, Knicks, Nets, Rangers, Devils, and Islanders. Plus, you get some college hoops and what's the local sports events going on in the area. It's a state that never sleeps, so why not get the opinions and sports takes that never sleep? Again, every Thursday, 2 p.m. to the NY State of Sports. We'll see you then.
Sports fans, do you like teams that are tough, cities that are tougher, and fan bases that are passionate about their teams? How about teams that are historic and stadiums that are iconic? Then you belong in Chicago, and you need to check out Chi-Town Weekly. Join me, Adam Kernan, every week as we keep up with all things Chicago sports. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, White Sox. We'll cover them all, plus more. The Windy City is always buzzing, and we'll keep you up on all the big games and major stories. So tune in to Chi-Town Weekly every week right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
All right, folks, welcome back. This is the moment you've all been waiting for. So the New York State of Sports is run by our friend Ricky K, who covers all these teams. And this is very important as we may do a collab with him or the host of our Detroit show, Gritsville, USA, as the Celtics have clinched. We'll get into that later. But they're awaiting one of those two teams. And we may have a collab episode before we go back on the end next week. And the Chi-Town Sports Weekly with Adam Karnick had me to go over as the Chicago Bears drafted Loveland as their tight end. They also drafted one of our local off right tackles, Ozzie Trapello, as they look to protect Caleb Williams. And as they had me on for a few minutes, I described he was a great BC player as Bill O'Brien in the game, definitely improved. But we're going to pay even more attention as we're going to cover BC, Harvard, and Bentley football coming this fall. So we're going to be absolutely busy. But before we talk about the Patriots draft, let's take a look at the comment section. My man Ralph Kalish, host of the Yinzer Report, the Pittsburgh Black and Gold Station, said, Brian, my man, have a great show. Absolutely, Ralph. Thank you so much for checking in as we are going to talk about the Patriots draft as Mel Kiper Jr. and all these so-called experts were very happy with how he did. And I was very happy too. We did select offensive tackle Will Campbell of LSU, who's a former All-Pro on the SEC. This is a really good pick. I'll admit, before that, I wasn't too thrilled. It had nothing to do with Will Campbell. Brought me shades of how unhappy the worst victory in Boston sports history, Week 18 against the Bills, as we move from the number 1 pick to the number 4. As you saw, the Jacksonville Jaguars, who had the 5th pick, traded up to the Cleveland Browns as the Browns got a boatload back in investment with a first-round pick next year to draft. Wide receiver and cornerback sensation Travis Hunter. He would have fit real well in the Patriots, and the New York Giants in the number 3 pick selected Abdul Carter, who did want Lawrence Taylor's number 56, which I don't think was a good idea and is appropriate to do. Respect the guys who retire. I'll admit, I never want someone touching number 12 in New England, ever, as no one in not only the Patriots, Boston sports, but anyone in football and all the sports leagues around the world can even touch of what Tom Brady did for this professional sports franchise, winning 6 Super Bowls, as Mike Vrabel in the game looked to get back into this glory days with the draft. As we have 7 Shadors. Oh, I'm sorry. I mean rounds. Get it, folks? Because the talk of the story of not how good or bad these teams did in the draft was how Deion, Coach Prime of Colorado Buffalo's son, Shador Sanders, quarterback, obviously Travis Hunter, the Heisman winner, got drafted. But the worldwide coverage they had on Shador Sanders is mind-blowing, how a guy who was supposed to be top 5 pick kind of acted like it. There might have been some behind the scenes. Maybe the owners told them not to draft this guy in the first 2. Not only did he not get drafted Thursday in the first round, but Friday in rounds 2 and 3. And well, that is mind-blowing to me. He fell all the way to the 5th round. And the funny part is the Browns already drafted a quarterback before then. Maybe Patriots did have a good draft, but imagine how fawning the experts would have been if they had taken Shador for craps and giggles. That would have been funny, but you don't want to do that to Drake May. Speaking of, we are helping them in this draft as Mike Vrabel went on a spree with Bob Kraft to sign defensive players to fit his system in the free agency, getting right tackle. We got Morgan Moses as right tackle, but we also drafted Will Campbell. We got Cole Strange, who will bounce back from injury next year. As I do love the Will Campbell pick, his press conferences, the man has leadership skills. He is 6'5", 319 pounds. He was a second and first team All-SEC in the past few years. He played All-Press All-American last year, first team All-SEC. He had the SEC blocking trophy with Texas left tackle who did slip well below in the first round, Kelvin Banks Jr. for the Lombardi Award, nation's top offensive or defensive line. He started 12 games in left tackle as he did not play in the team's bowl win of Baylor. Who plays in the bowl games unless you get picked in this college football playoff? Who cares about winning the McDonald's Bowl and waiting a month to play? I sure as hell wouldn't. But he had a great 48 hours as a Patriot, as he's going to be a phenomenal blocker, not only for Drake May, as the Patriots had the bottom 31st in offensive line pass protection last year, as it came back to haunt us, as we need to protect not only Drake May, Ramondre Stevenson, but also our next pick, which will be very important for us as we can try to get ground and pound going, kind of like what Vrabel did with Derrick Henry in his tenure at Tennessee. But this is a great pick for the Patriots. We really need a lot. As much as it would have been nice to have a wide receiver caliber player like Travis Hunter or linebacker like Abdul Carter, I'm pretty happy with this pick, and everyone should be too, as we really need protection as we can generate plays to compete with Josh Allen of the Bills and Tua Tagovailoa of the Miami Dolphins. The Jets are the Jets. They signed Fields. They couldn't do crap with Aaron Rodgers, as I'm not worried about the Jets. They're stupid. But anyways, it's time to move on to the next round, as we got national title winner of Ohio State, Travion Henderson. I love this pick of round 2, pick 6. He is 202 pounds, 5'10". He was a 5-star recruit in high school. He was second team in the All Big Ten Conference as a freshman. He led teams with over 1,000 yards in each season of his play. This is great for us because people like, oh, Ramondre's days are numbered. No, you keep Ramondre and you keep Antonio Gibson in case of injuries, folks. Hello. Because you could create what the Detroit Lions have known, the 1,000-yard rushers with Sonic and Knuckles. We have our own Sonic and Knuckles combination, hopefully, as we look to dash through those rings on the football field. As they had David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs of the Lions. Kind of like how a lot of teams are trying to be like the Eagles, strengthening their offensive line. The Patriots aren't different. We can rotate Stevenson and Henderson. Henderson's a great slot catcher, kind of like what Kevin Falk could have been, but except this guy's not a third down back. He's a starter, like Danny Woodhead was for us. This is a really great pick. He was a third team All Big Ten team camp. He joined Quinshawn Junkins as they had 1,000-yard rushers for the Buckeyes, who was Mike Vrabel's alma mater. He played in all 16 games, and he started 9 times for the national champion Buckeyes, who he had over 10 touchdowns and some receiving touchdowns as well, going 16 yards over 1,000 for the year. I really love this pick. This is really good for us because we need to bolster our running game because Stevenson with a good offensive line should be able to explode. And round 3 with the 69th pick, people love that number, 69. You got our receiver we're looking for on our already crowded receiver section. That includes Kayshon Boutte, Demario Douglas from LSU, newly signed former Bill and Texan Stephon Diggs, who was a great pickup for us, but he's coming off an ACL injury. You got Kyle Williams, pick round 3, pick 69 of Washington State. He is a great deep ball guy. I'll admit, I would love to have either Matthew Golden, who got drafted by the Packers, or Equan Equidma of the Ohio State University. I was kind of expecting the Patriots to go out, but I'm pretty happy with this pick, as he played for UNLV before transferring into the portal to Washington State. This is a phenomenal pick, as he was a Mountain West Conference Freshman of the Year, leading the team with 35 receptions and 426 receiving yards. He did transfer after his junior year and started all 12 games last year for Washington State, as the Pac-10 basically is almost extinct without this team, and Oregon State as well. He started all 12 games, getting 6 touchdowns. He was ranked 4th in the nation with 14 receiving TDs, ranked 8th with 1,198 receiving yards, and he led Washington State and started all 13 games with 70 receptions. This is important because we really need a deep threat. Even though we did pick up Diggs and we knew getting Travis Hunter was a long shot for this team, we need a Drake May deep threat, as Pop Douglas has potential, and I think Kendrick Bourne's going to get traded, even though he did well in Josh McDaniels' system a few years back, as Kendrick Bourne is very injury-prone. And these receivers are very important because look at your fantasy picks, how a lot of your first-round picks are receivers like Speedy Tyreek Hill, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, who got a big, huge contract with the Cincinnati Bengals. And you got all these receivers that need to keep up, and the sun god Amon-Ra St. Brown of the Lions. It is very important we do have a star receiver, folks. And for the 4th round pick, we got another SEC lineman, Jared Wilson, center of Georgia, who's over 300 pounds, 6 pounds less than Will Campbell. He was redshirted in 2021, as he was on the national title teams in 2021 and 2000. Georgia must hate the portal, hate the new rules of paying players, because those days of them dominating the national championship is kind of over. But he was a second team All SEC and he missed 2 games with an injury, but this is great for the Patriots, as we got a big offensive line. And we got our safety in the 4th round, Craig Woodson of Cal, who surprisingly in the ACC, he's exactly 200 pounds. And he's a safety who we kind of need to add to help out Christian Gonzalez, who's going to be phenomenal this year. And our newly Davis III pick free agent from the Detroit Lions. He had an honorable mention in the final years of the Pac-12 conference. He started all 13 games this year, third team all ACC, had 70 tackles, 2 interceptions, and 7 forced fumbles, which is very amazing. I don't think he's related to Woodson, who used to play for the Oakland, now Las Vegas Raiders. And we got another selection we traded from the Seahawks, Joshua Farmer, pick 35, pick 137 in the 5th round, I believe, which is a very important pick, as this is a defensive tackle pick from Florida State, little over 300 pounds, as he is an honorable mention of all ACC. Last year started all 12 games for Florida State, who had a very, very disappointing year after they failed getting screwed in the final year of 4 teams in the college football playoff. But boy, did they expand a lot this year. As Florida State, Bill O'Brien's team thought they made a huge upset opening day last year against the Florida State Seminoles, but that wasn't as much as we thought, because Florida State had a very down year last year, kind of like how the Patriots had back-to-back full-win season. Doesn't hurt to strengthen our defensive line, as he is our defensive tackle. He was an all-ACC, started 12 games, getting 32 tackles, 8 tackles for losses with 4 sacks. And he has a sad story with him, as his dad, Greg, passed away when he was 2 from stomach surgery, and his mother, Pauline, passed away when he was very young with brain aneurysm, and he has 6 older siblings, so he has a backstory. I would love to see this guy succeed, and hopefully he does well in training camp. And we got an edge from LSU. We got another teammate of Will Campbell, Braden Swinson, who is an edge linebacker, obviously same position as Abdul Campbell was. He was a second team All-SEC, led the team with 13 tackles for losses, 8.5 sacks, played in all 13 games with 12 starts. He had 58 tackles and 2 forced fumbles. He'll be a force to reckon with Milton Williams, the guy we signed from the Super Bowl winning Philadelphia Eagles, who was all over Patrick Mahomes last year. I'm just going to read the next few picks, which is pick 6, Andreas Borgalis, who we got a kicker, folks. Can he be as good as Gutskowski and the great Adam Vinatieri was for us? Can he lead us in clutch picks? We traded from the Jaguars through the Lions for a 6th round for another 6th rounder next year, I believe, as we do need a good kicker. Sly did have 6 field goals against the Bears this year in a game, but he is a Venezuelan native. Holy cow, as he's one of the very few first Venezuelan-born NFL players. Once he snaps for us on opening day, he was a first-team All-ACC this year, tied for 5th in the Football Nation Conference. He made over 94% of his field goal attempts, but Miami is a lot different from playing in the outdoors, especially in our cold, frigid fall and winters. He's going to have to maintain his 94% field goal attempts, as we look forward to having a good kicker here in New England. And we have 3 picks in the 7th round. Marcus Bryant, offensive tackle, Missouri. You don't know if he'll last. You got Julian Ashby, a linebacker of Vanderbilt University. As we got a compensatory selection from the 3 back-to-back AFC champion Kansas City Chiefs. And we have Mr. Irrelevant on our team, Kobe Minor, a defensive back of Memphis. Hopefully he succeeds, because the best Mr. Irrelevant of all time is still playing. Brock Purdy, as he got injured last year, but he did lead the 49ers to a Super Bowl a few years back. As it's not all doom and gloom for people that is Mr. Irrelevant and picked last, as this is a great pick. Hopefully it works out for the Patriots. That would be amazing. Imagine if we had Mr. Irrelevant helping us, guide us through dominance. But I am so happy the draft is finally over after months of hype. I get the Patriots an A-, and I'm sure a lot of people, even Mel Kiper Jr., gave the Patriots an A-, as before we have our next commercial break, folks, we are going to talk about the other neighbors of One Patriot Place, a team who looked like they'd be the worst team in all of MLS, the New England Revolution, folks. As Carlos Gil and the team has been really dominant, the Revolution come into a territory of the number 1 seed in the MLS Eastern Conference, the Charlotte Football Club. This was a big deal as the Revs came into this game on a roll with a 3-4-1 record. Finally, after getting other players not named Charles Gil to perform, Charlotte FC had the wall stacked around opponents as before face-off. They were 5-0 at home as the team has won its 8th straight at home, dating back to last season. Both teams had 3 yellow cards each as it was a defensive battle. You can tell Porter's defensive 3-5-2 scheme is working because Charlotte outshot the Revs 18-7, and only 4 of those 18 shots made the net. The Revs also trailed the time of possession by 13% in this game. With their 77th minute of the game, who else but midfielder Charles Gil grabbing a goal, with the Revs getting the first and only goal they need of the night. His 5th goal in their last 5. Peyton Miller had his 200th career MLS game, completing 90% of his passes. North Carolina native playing in his home state, Tanner Benson, has made his 3rd straight start at center back. The team has won all games when he starts, so maybe keep him starting. And Ivanchik had a clean sheet for 3 consecutive games with 4 saves in the night. The Revs will have to follow this as they will be taking on neighbors, the Rhode Island Football Club, in the U.S. Open this coming Wednesday. But before that, they have a matchup against Toronto FC in Toronto this Saturday, as this should be a classic for the ages to divide Southern New England right up as the Revs take on Toronto FC. But they go for their 4th straight to get a top 8 position in the Eastern Conference. Still a long season, but this would be amazing if the Revs can keep this up. Folks, as this is what you've been waiting for, my big announcement of the night, we are going to start off. You know how we end the night every single episode from my inaugural episode with our player of the week, but we're going to step it up a notch. Since I'm approaching 3 months, 1 full quarter of doing podcasting with IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports, we're going to do a 4-way player of the quarter, folks. That's right. 1 month from now, every week, I'm going to nominate different team. This year's edition, we're going to have 2 more before the year ends. We're going to have a Revolution player. We're going to have a Bruins player, since even though their season's done, they played in this quarter. We're going to have one Celtics player, and we're going to have 1 Red Sox player voted on our X accounts in a fatal 4-way voting. But we are going to nominate each week. This week, I'm going to nominate Carlos Gil and Ivanchik, the goalkeeper of the Revs. You're going to vote after the conclusion of the show for a week who should represent the Revs. Next week, we're going to reveal who my 4 Boston Bruins nominees are. One of them is and 2 of them, actually, if you've been following me from the beginning, have been a pretty easy guess. But we are going to start a brand new player of the quarter to reveal a month or so from now. As I am excited for this, you should be too. But enjoy this commercial break as we go into our Boston Celtics advancing and debuting our Boston Fleet PWHL team right after these messages, folks. Stay tuned, and thank you for tuning in tonight.
What's up, Pittsburgh? This is Ralph DeLeese, the host of the Injury Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Are you that passionate diehard Steelers, Penguins, Pirates, or just a Pittsburgh sports fan? Then please join me on the Injury Report every Tuesday on IE Sports Radio, the direct feed for all that is sports, and I will update you on all that's black and gold, and have you telling your Pittsburgh fans and friends what's up with Pittsburgh sports. Tune in Tuesday with me, Ralph Calise, the Injury Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Let's go!
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Davidson.
It's your boy, Dentarius Locke.
And we are the hosts of Fast Break here on IE Sports Radio, where we discuss everything in the world of basketball from prep to the pros.
You guys should definitely check us out, man. Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We got all the basketball information you guys need, so we look forward to you guys listening in.
And please do, because we are the best basketball show on this side of the Mississippi. And please do check us out on Twitter at FastBreakISR. D-Lock, where's our time again?
8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That give you guys plenty of time on a Sunday.
Tune in.
All right, folks. After you found out about my big announcement of play of the quarter, we also are going to debut a new team right now. But before I get into that and the Celtics to close off our show with our play of the week, of course, I just want to let you know, due to the upcoming Celtics schedule and some of my work commitments too, we are going to keep Wednesday, but we are going to go to 9 p.m. next Wednesday. And since they released the Celtics semifinal schedule, no matter who wins the Pistons-Knicks series, we are going to go 2 weeks on a Thursday at 9 p.m. So that way I can recap 3 games instead of getting 2 live look-ins in a row. I don't mind the live look-ins. It's fun, but if I don't have to do it consecutively, I'm going to do that. Then we'll go back to every Wednesday night at our same time slot, but bear with me the next few weeks, folks, and thank you for your understanding. As we're going to debut, we are going to have playoff hockey in Boston, even though it ain't the Bruins, but it's our second year of our PWHL team, the Boston Fleet, baby. Woo! As they are 9-6-5-9 for the year. Their PWHL does this scoring a lot differently than the NHL, is you get less points, I believe, if you win or lose in overtime compared. I think you get 3 points if you win as opposed to 2 wins no matter what in the NHL. As the Boston Fleet have resumed play after they took their break so the women could play and represent their countries in the World Juniors, I believe, or the championship competition in the world. They went back to play this past Thursday in Lowell against the Toronto Scepters as the Boston Fleet secured a 3-0 victory over the Toronto Scepters in the first game after the international break. Goaltender Chiara Pezzarola earned a shutout in what was her first career PWH start. But you got an incoming sensation, Lexi Azagina, scoring the opening goal early in the first, followed by Hannah Brandon's goal late in the period, as they added a power play goal as well in the second period to complete the scoring, as their strong performance clinched them a playoff berth as they won 3-0. But they also had another game against one of the top teams this year, the Montreal Victory, whatever you call them. They are top in the standings as the Boston Fleet are in third place right now. This team, they played not only two Canadian teams back to back, but they played the top 2 teams in the 6th league, PWHL, who announced the Pacific Northwest expansion today in Vancouver and Seattle. Should be interesting. Hopefully the women can grow and generate revenue as well. As the Boston Fleet are currently 3rd out of 6. If you're top 4 out of 6, you make the semifinals for the playoffs. As 1 plays 4, 3 plays 2. They made it last year, losing against Minnesota in the finals. They nearly had a championship the first year of existence. But before we get into that, they played the Montreal Victoria up in Montreal, which was a closely contested game, which started off slow. They were down 2-0, but they ended up tying and going to overtime. The Fleet were down 2-0, but they rallied to tie the game and secured the loss in overtime. Despite the loss, the Fleet's performance was serviceable as they remain in contention for playoff position as they got 1 more game left, and that will be this weekend at 1 o'clock against the team they played last year, who has a long shot to make it, but that team, the Minnesota Frost, has 2 games left. As the Fleet has been having a good year, and their lead leaguer in all PWHL, not only the Fleet, is captain and Olympic sensation Hillary Knight, has 29 points of the year and has a league-leading 15 goals of the season, which I am excited to cover this team and see how they do in this upcoming season playoffs, as we're going to have more in-depth coverage, as I'm going to watch more of these games closely, folks, as it is exciting that we still have playoff hockey in April or May, whatever, even though the Bruins are losing. But speaking of the Bruins, they come back next week. They may be done for the year, but we're going to nominate their 4 nominees for our Player of the Quarter next week, and we'll look into the potential head coaching vacancies of the NHL, as of last week's press conference, they are going to move on from Joe Sacco and grab a new head coach of the year. And now it's time for your main eventer of the evening, folks. That is right, as our main eventer is scheduled for one fall. And it is your reigning, defending, 18-time champion Boston Celtics, as last night they made history, advancing to the Eastern Conference semifinals, taking care of the Magic Tricks of the Orlando Magic, winning in 5 games, 4-1. What a historic evening, folks. I cannot wait to see the semifinals, as in Game 3 of the 2025 NBA playoffs, they got edged out despite Tatum and Brown playing, and we all thought they weren't going to play due to one of their elbow injuries, as they did lose Game 3, 95-93, but they came back from like 15 down, and it was a defensive battle with both teams struggling to find offensive rhythm that day, as the performance of this game was Franz Wagner, he's 23 years old. He's been clutch against the Celtics all season. He led the Magic with 32 points, 7 rebounds, and 8 assists, and he destroyed the Celtics in the 4th quarter. You also have Rookie of the Year last year, Paolo Banchero, who contributed 29 points, 9 rebounds, and 7 assists. And you had Jason Tatum having 36 points in this game, but he did have a lot of turnovers, which proved costly. But the Celtics did lead by a lot in the first half, but the Magic had a comeback in the second half, outscoring us and taking advantage of turnovers and offensive rebounds. As coming to the Game 5, the team who led the rebound battle has won all 7 matchups dating back to last year, as they capitalized on a bunch of turnovers, the Magic converting them to 26 points, and they had a 15-6 edge against us in the second chance points in Game 3. But now it's time to go to Game 4, where the Celtics will try to get a 3-1 lead, or can the Magic even up the series? But the Celtics got a 107-98 victory over the Magic, taking a commanding 3-1 series lead, as Jason Tatum had a great game with 37 points and 14 rebounds. But the end of Game 2, I still can't get over. Porzingis getting injured, bleeding, and coming back in the game with a blood symbol on his forehead. I love that guy, and he contributed 19 points in Game 4, including a huge slam dunk to pile over a bunch of Magic defenders. But Caldwell Pope, after that cheap shot against Tatum in Game 2, was held lack of points. But this is what you get from a city that launched confetti after winning one freaking playoff game. What a joke. I'm sorry, the Magic had a great season, but you don't even do that after advancing the first round, for crying out loud. Never mind a playoff game where you're still trailing in the series. As Tatum was dominant once again, scoring 37 points and grabbing 14 rebounds. He had 3 assists and 3 steals too. But Jaylen Brown had a double-double, having 21 points and 11 rebounds in this game. And you had Derek White scoring a lot of points and getting a bunch of 7 assists without Drew Holiday to maintain the Celtics' momentum. But Banchero had a great game, even though the Celtics won with 31 points and 7 rebounds. And Wagner got his usual 24 points. He always has over 24 points. The Celtics overcame early shooting struggles in this game, relying on strong performances from their stars. But the real big X factor of Game 4 was Florida, man. University of Florida national champion, and who he looks to retire after this year. Al Horford, a dominant center for us, who had a bunch of blocks in this game and broke history. Was 17th in NBA all-time in playoff blocks, as he was a big momentum, grabbing assists, stuffing Banchero and a bunch of Magic players, and Wendell, as the Magic did fight back in the second half, tying the game 2 different times. But we had a 10-1 run to close out Game 4, as our free throw shooting was awesome, making 33 out of 32 attempts. And can they close out in TD Garden and Causeway Street? Coming right up. And yes, they did, folks. Despite the Magic, like I said all season long, if a team figures out how to stop the Celtics in a three-point, our Celtics won 0 for 7 in the first half. They didn't make a single three-point attempt, but they only trailed by 2 last night against the Magic. How amazing is that, folks? That is absolutely amazing. As they would, after being down by 2 at halftime, Tatum and Brown put the pedal and tore apart the Magic as they used the fast pass that is no longer being accepted in Disney World, replaced by Genie Plus. No problem. We can use it here to advance to the next NBA round, the semifinals, as they won and made history, as Jason Tatum had a 120-89 victory over the Magic. He became one of 2 Celtics besides Larry Bird to go 3 consecutive games after injury with 35-plus points. That is incredible. But the real turning factor of this game was Pablo Banchero getting his 5th foul in the third quarter, which made the Magic have to bench him to the 4th, and boy, was that the difference maker, folks. The Magic couldn't keep themselves out of trouble. There may have been a controversial ref call, which had Jaylen Brown accidentally elbow one of the Magic, but it didn't matter, as the Celtics were very dominant in the 4th quarter, as they made a near 14-2 run in the end of the third quarter, which was amazing, folks. But with this win, we advanced to the Eastern Conference semifinals for the 5th-plus year in a row, which is an amazing accomplishment. We're awaiting the other 4 vs. 5 series, or actually 3 vs. 6 series, as the New York Knicks of the Atlantic Division is leading over the Detroit Pistons 3-2. And this is very important, folks, as I'm going to try to get a preview with the Celtics and either the Knicks with Ricky K of our New York State of Sports, or Christian Harvey of our Motor City show, Gritsville UFC. If they can come back to beat the Knicks, I'm going to try before Monday, as Game 1 of this series starts on Monday, to try to get a preview going, as I'll do more research and watch more tape, as that would be amazing. So we're most likely going to have a special show before our show next Wednesday at 9 p.m. But out of the Pistons and Knicks, I really don't care who we play. A lot of people think the Knicks would be easier for us but you can't underestimate Karl Anthony Towns, who they got from Minnesota, or Jalen Brunson, as he's a phenomenal player for the New York Knicks. But comeback player of the year, and this Cade Cunningham of the Pistons is really making that young team dominant after they were an NBA worst team last year. You also have Jaren Duran leading the team in rebounds and assists, as he's a very hard guy. The Knicks are the better offensive team, but the Pistons are a lot better on the defensive end. They can score, but the Celtics can't underestimate any of these teams, as Joe Mazzulla will tell them the same thing, as he got Jason Tatum motivated in the second half, as it's amazing to see the Celtics going for back-to-back title runs, hopefully, folks. But it is now time to cover my player of the week, folks. Who is my player of the week? Ooh, it is obvious. It is a Celtic. And this person is our first ever, not two-time champ, but three-time player of the week, Jason Tatum, as he kicked ass this week. He kicked ass after coming from an injury, which he probably shouldn't have played in Game 3, but he is one tough SOB. Folks, that is right. Jason Tatum, hats off to him, as he is a three-time player of the week after 3 consecutive 35-point games. This is a no-brainer, folks, as I am so happy to be a Celtics fan. They make me so proud, as someone's got to carry the load, as the Bruins missed the playoff. But that is all for tonight, folks, as we are the quarter next week. Who will win between Carlos Gil and Ivanchik of the Revolution for their player of the quarter representative? How will the Celtics fare against either the Pistons and the Knicks? We'll have that a live look-in next week, as we'll go late to do a live look-in. How will the Celtics do in the upcoming homestand, including a rematch with Evaldi taking on Crochet? And how will our lacrosse teams make the cut? And how will our college baseball teams do to wrap up the college baseball? Will the Fleet start their postseason? Tune in next week for the Beantown Sports Town in a special 9 p.m. Eastern start. I am your host, BMAdawg. Woo! Signing off. Thank you, folks, and have a